Good morning, my name is Morten Hjelmsoe. I'm the founder and the CEO of a company called Ignitio. First of all, I'm very, very happy to be here in your very beautiful country, very friendly country. I've only been here twice, so I haven't learned to speak Turkish yet, but that could be a very good idea to do. What I'm going to do, and this works, okay, is that I will talk about, I'll not talk about Ignitio, I'll talk about a product. I just need to get all my stuff ready here, sorry. Here we go. Okay, Ignitio is a company that I founded, and I'm still the CEO of, that started some years ago in 2001, where we have focused only working in the healthcare industry. And what we're doing is that we're utilizing the new technology to help the healthcare industry, the pharmaceutical industry mainly, to communicate their messages in a more precise and better way, you can say. I'm not going to talk much about Ignitio, just so you got an idea, but what we've done is that we've only focused on the healthcare industry and the issues that they have. Basically, you can say what we do believe is to say that the way that we've been communicating so far from the pharmaceutical industry to the healthcare professionals has very much been driven by the technology, you can say, or the technology that hasn't been available, meaning that it's mainly been that we've been filling up reps in the morning with information and send them out with paper, and then explaining to the doctors, to the healthcare professionals, what the industry would like to talk about. What we do see, and what I strongly believe, is that what is really happening now is that we have to turn that completely around. That we have to be, instead of feature-oriented, pushing our messages to the customers, to the healthcare professionals. We need to turn it around, and so instead of talking about our features, we have to meet the customers where they are. And I know that's what we've been talking about always, talking about that we need to be customer-centric. But the thing is that what is possible now with the technology is that now we can really become customer-centric. So that's what I'm going to talk about. There's a couple of reasons why this is happening and why this has to happen, I think. I normally say there's two reasons. There's a wish and there's a need. The wish is that everybody wants to be treated as individuals. That I wanted to be treated as who I am, when I am it, and so forth. And now sometimes look at it a little bit like in the old days. You can say like 200 years ago, everything was custom made, right? Everything, if I wanted a suit, I would go to a tailor, I would go to a shoemaker, and they would measure me and make it, deliver it directly for me and for me alone. That was really great. Of course, if you had the money, you could say. So the thing was that then when industrialization came, it all became a commodity, which was great because now everybody could get the same thing, but the price was that it did become a commodity, right? So as I say, my left foot is a little bit bigger than my right foot, meaning that when I pick a pair of shoes, I can now decide whether I want one that's a little bit too big or one that's a bit too small. I'm a size 50 over my shoulders, but only 48. Oh, sorry, only 48 in my arm length. So again, I'm just saying that when we do commodity, and that's the same we've been doing in communication, it does become diluted. It does become a one-size-fits-all. But what the technology will give us now, and I think this is in everything, is that technology will bring us back to the good old days, you can say, meaning that for a low price, we can actually start getting, being treated individually, much more than we've been doing so far. I was in Boston a few weeks ago. I went into a Converse store because I promised to buy some shoes to my daughter. And when I came into that store, on the ground floor, on all the shelves, you saw these Converse shoes with nothing on it, just different colors. So you would pick a pair of shoes, you would go upstairs, and they would have a big disk and a printer and computers. And then you would choose, you could go on the internet, you could look into books, and then you would choose what pattern you would like to have on your shoes. Which meant that everybody that walked out of that store had a pair of shoes that only they had. I think that's where we're hitting. So that was kind of the wish. If I look at the need, I think there's a very, very big need in the terms of saying that the information that we're getting now is so immense. All the things I have to look at, all the things I have to see every day, no way I can have it in my brain. So as I say, my brain is becoming too small. Maybe it was too small already, but it's definitely too small now. So there's no vacancy anymore. So what I do, and I think what most people do, and what they definitely also do in the healthcare, with the healthcare professionals, is that you filter the information you get very, very tough. If it's not very interesting, it's going directly to the bin. If it's remotely interesting, it might go to one of your external brains. And with that I mean that would be my iPhone, my iPad, my computer, my smartphone, whatever, where I will store it. So it actually means that a lot of the information that I have to remember in the old days, I store somewhere else. And I'm sure you can all recognize this, that when you drive somewhere in your car and you're using a GPS, if you use the GPS, you don't store the route. So next time you drive it, if you don't have a GPS, you can't find your way. I say to my wife almost every morning, because she says, oh, Morten, can you pick up Arthur on your way home? And can you take Nicoline? And can you do, and I always say, could you send me a text what you would like me to do? Which maybe sounds a little bit, now I'm excused because I got 6 kids, so I can't remember all that. But just saying that, again, saying that the thing is that we are moving from being able to store everything to put it other way and put it and pull it when we need it. And I think this very much counts for the healthcare professionals, meaning that in the old days you can say the doctor was about treating a patient, and now it's about treating a disease. So they don't just have to focus and know about the chemistry behind it, but everything around it as well. So that means 2 things. It means that we, from the pharmaceutical industry, has to be much more to the point and deliver value in the interaction with the customers. We can't just go out and keep repeating whatever we would like them to know about efficacy, safety, tolerability, and so forth. We need to deliver exactly what's interesting for that customer. The other thing is that we have to make it available when they need it, meaning that it's not when it suits us to give it, but when the healthcare professionals need the information, they need to be able to get the information. So I think it's very clear that we're moving from, if you look here in 2012, where maybe 80% of the information from the industry to the physician goes through the sales reps, that which is a push attitude, you can say, which will decline and go over to a lot of other channels. So there's 2 things, as I said. One thing is to say, how do we figure out what to put into those channels so it's actually give values? And the other thing is that how do we turn, you can say, the way that we communicate around from being a push communication to a pull communication. And that's what I'm going to talk about, and that's what I'm going to give you some examples about. So as I say, so far in the industry, it's been very much, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we've been very much kind of pushing and shouting our messages out there. The problem with that is that the more we push, the less impact we get, which I think is very, very clear. If we see like a country like in the US, we can see that when the number went from like 30,000 sales rep, and over 10 years it increased to 100,000 sales rep, the time, the access to the doctors and the time in front of the doctors went from 6 minutes to 60 seconds. So you've got kind of 2 ways to go, you can say. If you get less and less access and less and less impact, now you can either choose to say, well, if I got less time, I got to shout louder, or you can turn it around, no, I need to give more value. And how do I give value? I give value by knowing who I'm talking to, knowing what's valuable for that individual person right now, meaning that we can't even put the doctors, I think, anymore on an adaptation ladder, because they can have a problem about diagnosing in the morning, titrating at lunch, and dosing in the evening, and so forth. So basically what we say is that what we need to be able to do is to figure out who's what do they need. But if we only push, the only thing we can measure is actually what are we pushing. So what we need to be able to do is in all engagement, in all encounter with anybody we're talking to, is to profile that person. Where are you right now? That'd be online, offline, doesn't matter. Saying, who are you, where are you, what's your problem? Out of that, I can adapt my presentation, what I would like to say to that person. I can deliver it. I need to learn from that lesson, because in that way I can refine it over and over again. And that's the way that I start creating value for the individual customer. So basically what I'm saying is just saying that we've been treating in pharma the healthcare the professionals like a commodity, like a one-size-fits-all, but now what the technology can do is to help us to really individualize to the independent person. So Talking about pull marketing is, as I say, it's about creating value. The way you create value is to get into a dialogue, figuring out where are you, what's important for you, how can I help you. If I do that, and I do it with the technology, I will capture that information. Now, there was a talk about secrecy and about what kind of data you can storage. But the idea here is not to figure out a lot about making big brothers watching you or figuring out who thinks what, but it's much more about saying, how can I provide more value in my interaction with my customers in the future? Because out of that, I can now, if I start with a detailer visiting a customer, I can now start splitting it out. So not only am I delivering the right message, but I'm delivering it in the right channel and at the right time. A way to do that, I'll give you a few examples in a second. A way to do that is that in the engagement is using the sales reps that we already got out there now to do this measurement, you can say, to figure out what's important for the customer, but on top of that also to recruit them, you can say, or show them where they can get more information. This is an example of that. This is for Bayer on a product called Xarelto, and every time there's a sales rep out there, when he or she stops the meeting with the customer, they will say, I can give you much more information of your interest. If you tell me a little bit more about your interest, I can give you a link to a microsite that fits you. So tell me, are you more into efficacy than safety? Are you a hematologist? Are you a whatever? What are you? Are you a cardiologist? How much time do you have? You've got 2 minutes, 6 minutes. What kind of channels would you like to use? That will automatically generate an email with a link, a unique link to that doctor. When the doctor clicks on that link, he will go to a website that will be a microsite made for that specific doctor, saying, welcome, Dr. So-and-so, and it will have the topics that we talked about and that he said was in his interest. So what we will do, or what you can do, is that this is another example that you will have after a presentation. The rep will go in and say, how can I move this doctor? How can I help this doctor with more information? Create the email, send the link, and again, when the link is clicked, you will go straight in and look at the exact presentation that is in your interest. Now, I know that I'm talking fast here, but I was told that I had to cut down a little bit on the presentation time here. So what I will do, I will just give you here a few, very few examples, just to give you a feeling. iPad in communication with the doctor. Okay, I'll just pick a few ones here. Okay, the first one I'm going to show you is an example just of how easily you can adjust your presentation to the individual customer. This one is an example, it's an Abbott presentation, it's for Spain. And what you have on the top line is all the topics, your library, you can say, where you got your data about efficacy, safety, so forth. But what you can also do, so instead of going out and say, this is what I would like to talk about, you can actually say to the customer, I want to give you maximum value in this communication that we're having now. So if you tell me what's important for you, that's what we're going to talk about. So when to treat, in this case, Crohn's disease, what would be the most important thing for you? Would that be to make sure that we don't get mucosa? So no, that's really not that important. Get rid of surgery? That would be important. Get rid of the symptoms? Yeah, that would be important. But now what you're doing is that you're actually having the customer to rate what's important. If you look at the top now, you will see some numbers, 3, 4, 2. So that means that that's the order that you should play the presentation. So if you say, no, you know what, actually I think it's more important for me to get rid of the symptoms, so if you put that one in as a number 1, you will see that the numbers will change. So in that way, what we're doing now is 2 things. We're listening to the customer, we're getting the information, what's important for him or her, and then we're helping the rep to deliver exactly what it is that they would like to know and what's important for them at that certain time. Okay, I'm not going to go deep into that one. Another example here I'm going to show you is a little bit different. Here it's on a multiple sclerosis product. the first once-a-day oral product for that. And the problem here, or you can say the challenge here, was that Novartis didn't know when they met a neurologist whether that person knew a little bit about it or a lot about it. And again, we want to deliver to the point. So what we did here was actually that we made 4 presentations within 1 presentation. So they will actually say to the customer, I want to meet you where you are. Have you just heard about Gilenya? Then that's where I'm going to start. Could you consider, are you ready to prescribe? And depending on what the customer will say, I will have a presentation that will fit where that doctor is. And if he would say, no, you know what, I'm actually ready to start prescribing, I can help the doctor to start figuring out how do we do the first initial dose, tell me about relapse, current treatment, and so forth. Okay. Yeah, and I'm just touching the surface here, just to give you a quick feeling. Another one I'd like to show you here is that the industry is also starting to use this very much on pre-launch, to figure out who to go to, what to talk about, and so forth. This is an example of a pre-launch of a new product within neuropathic pain. This one ran in 15 countries. All they had to do was to change the language, change the picture and the prevalence of the disease, you can say. So what they would do is that they would go out, talk to the GPs in this case, and then say, if you've got 2 minutes, that's all I need, I would like to talk to you about a new area. Because what we figured out is that in Ireland, we got 300,000 people suffering from neuropathic pain. That has some major consequences when we talk quality of life, cost of society, and so forth. But the thing is that if we got 300,000 in Ireland, you should have quite a few in your practice. So if you want to have a look, you just tell me, how many patients do you have in your practice? Oh, I've got this many patients. I said, well, if you follow the statistic, that means that you should actually have found around 220 patients. And what I'm doing now is that I'm figuring out whether or not the doctor has realized how big the problem is, because that tells me where to start my story. So on top of that, I will say, well, you know, another problem is that we know that a lot of these patients don't have neuropathic pain all over. They only got it on spots. How many do you think that is? And the doctor will put his finger on and he will say, I don't know, maybe that could be as many as 56%. So I'll tell you what, in Ireland, the real figure is 64%. But the thing is here again, now I'm getting a feeling of what to talk about, because now he's telling me to what extent he has realized how big the problem is. Then I can start talking about the treatment, saying, well, the problem with the treatment today is that I can only do a systemic treatment. A systemic treatment means that I will affect everywhere in the body. It also means that if I need to reduce the pain, I have to increase my dose. If I increase my dose, I also increase my risk of side effects. Talking about side effects, that's of course depends on what kind of drug you're using today, or you're using gabapentin. I'm doing this very, very quickly, but it's just hopefully to give the feeling that by getting into a dialogue with your customer, you will get a lot more information, and that information can help you to give much more value, because you can start delivering to the point what that person will like to have or need to have. So in this one, I will say, this was great to know about that. You know, if you could do a local treatment, then you'll only affect this part. So the question is this something you would like to hear more about, or should I keep away from you about this topic? But 2 minutes, I suddenly have market research, which you can say, yeah, it's a benefit for the industry, but it's absolutely also a benefit for the customers, because we're not filling them up with all kinds of things that's not important for them. Okay. I'm not going to show you more iPad examples. I'll just go back to this one for a sec. So now I only showed the iPad, but the thing is that what the technology gives us now is that we really don't care about the channels, you can say, that we can reuse exactly the same material across channels. This is another example where that we know that when we look at healthcare professionals, that they actually use all kinds of devices. We also know that they do spend a lot of time on the internet, but they spend very little time on the internet during the office hours. So one of the things that we figured out actually by doing a market research using the tool was that we could see that a lot of doctors would actually like to be able to get information on the internet internet but move it to the iPhone, for instance. So we make something we call Keep here, where you can, when you see something, you just press Keep, it will go to your iPhone, and that means that when you sit in your train, the train on your way home, you can read it offline. So it's not about that product, but it's about the whole idea of saying that this is going to be mobile enterprise. We got, the technology is out there to get things, to give much more value and to the point information to our customers. That was my speech. Thank you very much.